You're watching Bring It Worth TV. I am your host, proprietor, executive producer, all the hats, Damon Brown. I'm an entrepreneurial coach. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. Bring Your Worth TV comes to you live on Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I'm here in hot Las Vegas. It is Halloween next week. It's still 80 degrees here. Let's start sweating in this blazer. I might have to start switching up my outfits for you guys because man, it's October. It's almost November. It's still smoking hot here in Vegas. Wouldn't have it any other way. You subscribe to the Bring Your Worth show for free at the link below. If you're watching on Amazon or wherever you happen to be doing that, you can follow, subscribe, like, whatever. The home base of this place, though, is YouTube. So come over to bringyourworth.tv, subscribe there. You can also hit the little bell. You'll see it somewhere under here for notifications. If you're watching on LinkedIn, what have you, I appreciate y'all coming through. You are appreciated. My latest book is the complete Bring Your Worth collection, which is, oh, where is it? I was so busy gabbing that my book's so above my big head, right over here. The purple book, we call it maroon, I guess. The purple book above my big head. It's my 27th book. It's a compilation collection of almost all of my major business books over the past 10 years, from the best-selling The Bite-Sized Entrepreneur, which I made a bestseller. I will always be appreciative of that. To Bring Your Worth, which is, of course, the name of the show, and my publishing company. And lastly, my personal favorite, Build From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. There's some compilations in there. So in total, it's like 7 books in this one book. You can't tell from here, but the book is very, very thick. I don't want to disrespect my family photo up here, so I'm not going to pull it down. But it's a thick book. I really wanted to create something for y'all because there's 18,000 plus of y'all who have subscribed to Bring Your Worth TV. We're approaching 4 years in December, which is crazy. And as y'all know, it's been a up and down 4 years for all of us around the world, particularly here in America as well. And for everyone to come through to support this show. But then a lot of y'all weren't familiar with my work or didn't know where this came from, that suddenly this show just came out of nowhere in the year 2020, which isn't true. I'd already done probably about 22, 23 books, maybe 24 by the time I started this show 4 years ago. So I wanted to really give an opportunity for those of y'all who are just connected with me and are just getting to the side hustling, the solopreneurship, um, being over mentored and under resourced, which is kind of the term nowadays. I can relate to that. I had my startups, 2 of them. My second one, Cuddler, became #1 app in several countries, including America and Canada and other parts around the world. And me and my co-founders ended up selling it while I had my little kid at home with my co-parenting partner. And so there's such a journey that I've been on, and I want to make sure that any game, any insight I have from my journey, I want to pass it on to y'all. A lot of it was contained in the books until the show started 4 years ago. So I want to give a really nice compilation, almost a gift to y'all, to go ahead and for y'all to catch up. Speaking of catching up, the book is available everywhere books are sold. That's from my own publishing company called Bring Your Worth. But also, the audiobook, which is about 8 hours long, is available for free for you right on this YouTube channel. Just click on the link below. Of course, you can get it at Audible, Amazon, bookshop.org. Shout out to them for supporting the indie bookstores everywhere. But if you're abroad or you're not able to get access to audiobooks, which some of y'all that I coach are overseas and all that, and they're not available, be sure to check out the YouTube channel. Again, that's my gift to y'all. Shout out to James Oliver Jr. He had me on his podcast like about a week ago, week and a half ago. It went live where he had a brief podcast talking about um, if it's every day, it's just you versus you. If you're familiar with my work, if you've been a longtime viewer or listener of the show, if you've read any of the books, you know the vibes. Um, at the end of the day, we're really in a fight with ourselves. And sometimes it's a violent or rough fight. Sometimes it's a gentle pushing ourselves to move forward type of fight. But there is a battle, and it usually doesn't have anything to do with the outside world. So we talked about that on the podcast. James, thanks for having me come through. Pampreneur is a fantastic organization that supports Black and Brown founders who also are parents. particularly parents of little kids, which my kids are 8 and 11. So, me and James have been in the same vibe for several years. I love supporting the organization. Salute to him. You can go and click on this. The podcast is called Parents Making Profits. You also learn more about the Parentpreneur Foundation there. In case you missed it, when and how to take a loss. That was my live show a couple weeks ago. I had some other stuff going on. I had to get some rest and I was out of town a little bit. So that was our last live show, I think about 3 weeks ago. NGMI means not going to make it. Nerdy lingo that you might hear in some of the investment communities and all that. Definitely more of a modern term. But sometimes when you see NGMI, it's like, what I'm doing is not going to work. And we'll talk about that with today's show about strategy. Sometimes you get to that point, and it's like, I keep trying to, as a comedian said recently, it's like you're working with a Rubik's cube, and sometimes the colors the colors don't match up. It's like it's not going to happen. You need to let it go. I so loved doing this episode. I think there was some commentary that you guys had coming in as well, particularly when it came to relationships and stuff. I think that was the same episode, talking about 5 different ways that we can deal with when something needs to end or when we need to let something go. The process of that, I give a lot of good literature that's helped me over the years, as well as videos from the channel, from the almost 400 episodes that we've done on this channel. There's like 5 of them that are really key to this discussion. If you missed it a few weeks ago, I think it was at the first week of October, be sure and check it out. I think it's an important episode. Today's show, though, how to make 2025 amazing. It's like, Damon, it's October. Why are you talking about 2025? 2025 is in like 10 weeks. I'm going to have a sip of coffee to that one. Yeah. The new year begins in about 9 weeks. So I'm already planting seeds for next year. Oh, there's so much stuff going on behind the scenes. I cannot wait to share with y'all. It's been such an exciting time, but very much behind the scenes. That's why I've been a little bit less present for the live shows, which I usually do every Wednesday and other things. But fam, 2025 is here. In a week, it's going to be November. 8 weeks after that, we're singing, New Year's here in the States, or if you happen to be elsewhere, Diwali. Shout out to my Hindi folks and my Gujarati folks, part of my family. Diwali's happening. Like the New Year is here. No matter what culture you happen to hang out with, it's popping. Yom Kippur, shout out to y'all. Just happened around my birthday a few weeks ago. What are we doing? The New Year is already here. If we're going to build that world that we want to have and that world that we want our kids to be in, our family to be in, the people that we serve, the 18,000 of y'all that subscribe to this, if we're going to have a certain world, we need to start building that now, brick by brick, piece by piece. That's what we're going to talk about today. There's 3 big questions if you're going to be strategic about 2025 in this upcoming year. If you're watching this in the future, then I think a lot of stuff I'm talking about will apply to whatever new year or new beginning you're looking at. Today's episode is sponsored by SHORTFORM. Their logo's right over there. Shout out to SHORTFORM and their team over there. It is your ultimate book reader companion. I'm going to go and show you guys a little bit of SHORTFORM. And let me see, do present. It's always a little bit tricky to share the screen. You guys that do live presenting know the vibes. There it is, beautiful. This is SHORTFORM. SHORTFORM allows you to get summaries as well as insights, as well as connections to your favorite book. I use SHORTFORM in two different ways. I use it to learn about new books and learn to go deeper into the books that I already know by heart. Let's get into it. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands of books are on this platform. Um, Popular books, and some of them you see I have bookmarked. This is like a la carte. Like you pay the monthly or annual fee, which there is a discount. It's 20% off, exclusive for Bring Your Worth listeners. If you click right now, I don't know how long the deals will be going, so I take advantage of it if you're interested. Obviously, you have free books. You see the free book thing right there. If you can see my cursor, 48 Laws of Power. One of my favorite books of all time. Shout out to Robert Greene. He's been a distant mentor for a long time, and I got a chance to interview him a handful of years ago. So I hope he's doing well. So the first way that you can work with this is to, if there's a book or topic you're interested in, you can go and dive deeper into that. So, for instance, let's say art and design. The creative act, which is, this was not planned. It's right, as you can tell, it's right here. Creative act. Shout out to Rick Rubin, one of my favorite books. I believe it was last year. I'll put it over here. They have a summary of the creative act. And it's beyond Cliff Notes. I'm of that age. You see some of the gray hair. So I'm of that age where I remember Cliff Notes, which was basically you take Shakespeare's Hamlet or whatever like that, stuff that you need for school, and they summarize into these little, almost like leaflets that you get from a church or something. And then it's like, these are the major highlights, all bullet points. This is way deeper than that. And I'll literally show you. So you have the audio available of it. It's a overview of the book, and then you can start reading it. And then it gets deep. One page summary, which is fine. And then explaining what creativity is. It gets so deep. You see sidebars on here, you see links. It's all very interactive and deep. I already know the Creative Act. Again, I recommend it to y'all when it came out, probably spring of last year, 2023. But you can correct me in the comments. But the book has been out for about a year. So I know the book, and to be able to look at this and be like, oh yeah, that's the stuff from the book. So the first thing is to go ahead and say, I'm curious about a particular subject. I want to go deeper into this. What are your recommendations? Oh, these books sound interesting. Then you go back and you get the real book. There's links right here, if I remember correctly. Should be right here. Exactly. So there's links right there. You can get the actual book at different retailers. The second part, though, which is one of the reasons why I often talk about the what's it called, the 48 Laws of Power, is that you have these really intense, deep books. 48 Laws of Power is like this thick. I'm not exaggerating. I have I don't think it's first edition, but I have one of the earlier editions from like 20 years ago. Excuse me. And this is a great example where it's like, what's the third law of power? I don't know. And I have a show coming up, or I do a lot of business coaching. I'm trying to support you, and I'm like, well, I can't remember what it is. So this becomes a resource for that. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the third law of power. Law 18, don't isolate yourself. Really good law, by the way. You always want to be connected to other people, because if you feel like you can do it on your own, you're not going to make it. You're always going to need other people. Even though I have an independent business, you're always going to need other people. Always. I'm not my own cover designer. Shout out to Beck Loss. I'm not my own editor, right? I'm on a platform like YouTube or working with LinkedIn. Those are partnerships. I'll stop my rant there. Such an important part of it. Another important part here, though, is that if we go back to search and we go ahead and we do Robert Greene, who's the author of 40 Laws of Power, Daily Laws, the 50th Law, shout out to 50 Cent, Art of Seduction, Mastery, which is another book I'd recommend. It's like, okay, fine. All of his books are on here. But then you see the podcast that he's on. And one of the reasons why I have the show, and I was talking about this earlier in the episode, if you have a podcast, if you have a show like this, if you're writing regular articles, as I used to do for Inc. magazine, then you're able to elaborate on those things that you had in your physical book. So then it goes a lot deeper, and short form's pointing you into other deeper levels of research, whether you're an author like me or you're just really into getting into a particular topic or a particular person. So there's 5 podcasts they have something connected to, podcast episodes. There you go. The New York Times, etc. And it's going. And it keeps going from there. So it becomes this web of information that you can really lock into. Short form has a short-term deal, no pun intended, short-term deal. I don't know how long it's going, but it's 20% off for all the Bring Your Worth listeners. Be sure and click below. Of course, you also will be supporting the channel because we also have a business partnership. But I think it'll be a great asset. When they came to me and they were like, hey, you might want to do this, I was like, yes, my readers and my see, kind of put the cart before a horse. My watchers are really big readers, as most of you are, and as you all have been supporting the book. And there's so much love and support that's come from the content that I've given that has gotten us deeper into other podcasts, other shows, other books, other articles, other white papers, et cetera, et cetera. More and more and more. This is a great resource for you to learn more beyond me, as far as these resources that will help you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. Thanks so much for sponsoring. Be sure and support our sponsor and shout out to Short Form. Now, when we talk about strategy, and again, we're talking about today's show is make your 2025 amazing. We're talking about strategy. How can you strategize in making next year amazing, starting, well, now? I talk about this quite a bit in my free newsletter at joindamon.me. My newsletter today is today, tomorrow, if I can say it correctly. Tomorrow begins today. And I talk about strategy, planting a seed today, moving forward, and even my own challenges and sometimes inability because I'm so much hustling today that I'm not thinking about what's going to matter in a few years. Be sure and check out the newsletter. Newsletter comes out every Wednesday at 5:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. So it's free. Go ahead and head over there, check it out. I think there's hundreds of newsletters, but on the current platform, shout out to Beehive. Um, with the Beehive platform, I think it's up to 40 since January every week. So I think there's like 40 newsletters. Dive in, check it out. There might have been episodes or books that you missed. Be sure and get into it. It's not too late to do that. So today, how to make your 2025 amazing. And for me, I believe that comes down to strategy. And the biggest question I get as a business coach, I've coached several hundred of y'all at this point. The biggest question I get is what's the difference between a plan and a strategy? What's the difference between a plan and a strategy? A plan is something that is usually fixed based on a particular outcome. And let me go ahead and get the comments off here. It's driving. There we go. So it's driving me nuts today. A plan is a fixed path that's based on a particular outcome. A strategy, which I love this, is a flexible allocation of resources. A plan has to do with you doing something specific. A strategy has to do with you moving or being flexible based on the resources at hand. I'll give a really simple example. My family and I love to travel a lot. So if I said, next summer, we're going to go to Florida, that's a plan. Sounds like a good one. It's like, all right, got two little kids, they're 8 and 11. They're like, "Yay, Daddy, we're gonna go to Florida. What are we gonna do in Florida? Well, we'll do this or that. Maybe we'll go to Tampa. Blah blah blah." That's a plan. Sounds good. A strategy is it gets to about almost 120 degrees, 117 to be precise, every summer in Vegas. It'll stay in the hundreds for a couple months. This past summer, thank God summer's done. Our strategy is to not be here and to be somewhere warm, but not as warm as here next summer. And as pieces come together, whether it's us figuring out our budget, if our budget's a little bit lower, then maybe we'll stay a little bit closer and I don't know, go back to Jersey, which is where my family's from. It'll be warm in Jersey. I want to say, almost said Jersey. It'll be warm in Jersey, but it definitely won't be as warm as being here in the desert, right? Or if ends up being a really nice financial year, I run my own businesses, it's like, oh, we're going to the Bahamas. Let's go. Which I've been there before. It's beautiful. Shout out to the Bahamas. It's like we're going there. That's a strategy. A plan is saying this is fixed. This is how we're going to do it. This is the path. This is the way. A strategy is basically saying this is the outcome that we want. Let's look at the resources, and as we get closer to it, we can modify it. That's the difference. Many, many years ago, I was interested in doing a television show. Wasn't sure how it was going to happen. I didn't know. A plan would have been, I live in Vegas now. I can't remember where I lived at the time. I think I was on the West Coast, might have been in San Diego, where I lived several years ago. So it might have been if the plan, looking at it plan wise, it would have been like, okay, well, I have some loose connections in Hollywood. Let me go and get up there. I have people popping up in my head as far as people in my network that have done stuff like that. I'm like, let me talk to them. Let me get together. And I did talk to them. Well, let me get together. Da, da, da. And then, okay, this is the path. I better go and get over to Century City or get over to Burbank, whatever, where they film all the TV shows. I better get up there and, my wife and I, we're settling down in San Diego. Maybe we should settle down in LA instead. That's a path. But the path led me to you. The pandemic hit. We're all at home. I was already a pro speaker. I can speak. I was already a keynote speaker, professional speaker. I already did a few TED talks, and I was going in that direction. Then the pandemic hit, and then we weren't doing as much stuff in person. And so I wanted to stay connected to y'all. And I'm like, this feels like YouTube is different than I was expecting, but maybe we can rock with this. Y'all responded, and I love doing this. I can't see my career right now without working with Bring Your Worth TV and all the beautiful stuff that's come with it. That's the difference between a plan and a strategy. A plan is saying it's going to be this particular way. A strategy is saying, let's look at all the pieces. We know the energy, the general outcome. We know the intention of what we want to do. But the path to actually get there might be certain doors that are going to open that were not open before. Just this past week, just in the last few days, I was talking to a mentor of mine the other day. There's stuff that's happening in my career now, which again, I cannot wait to share with you guys. That if I had my way based on the past, it would have happened a year ago and would not have happened as well at all. At all. And I was talking to my mentor and I get it. I was prevented from moving forward a year ago with this particular plan because I did have a plan. I'm not above that. I had this plan and I was going to do it like this. I was going to show up like this. I was going to serve it like this. It was going to be perfect. And then this happened. And I revved it up again. Okay, well, this is the new plan. Da da da. And then this happened. I couldn't do it. And then when my focus isn't even on that thing, it was handed to me in a silver platter. It's like, here you go. You got it, dog. You got it. Here you go. But that's because the focus, not 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 willingly, but definitely an alerting experience for me was like, no, I had to lean on the strategy. The strategy is I want to have this particular type of experience for y'all, because it is something for y'all. And as far as me having this point in my career, it's different than saying it has to be this. It has to be this. That's when you get into plans. And often I've found whether it's parenting, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a personal business, even as far as, you might be a leader in an organization, or you might be an employee and someone's leading you, and things go left. And things are still fine, they just go in a different way. And how many times have you said, oh, well, this wasn't what I was thinking was going to happen? Or quite literally, this wasn't the plan. What is this? I don't get it. This wasn't the plan. That means that you had certain expectations that was going to be done in a fixed way. Strategy makes us go macro. It makes us go bigger. As I say in the newsletter, my favorite thing to say when I'm coaching someone in a coaching session, and if you've coached with me, you've inevitably heard me say this. Going 5 years from now and looking backwards, is what you're doing today sustainable? And the answer is almost inevitably no. It's not a judgment on you, or I ask myself that all the time, not on me. It's just sometimes we get so focused on the micro and just trying to hustle, and we're in survival, and particularly with independents like ourselves. Excuse me, we're just trying to get through the day or the week or the month or frankly the year. But now it's almost 2025. So there's simple actions you can take right now that will make your future self in October of 2025 thank you endlessly. Do the things while they're small. Focusing on strategy rather than the plan allows you to do that. The plan too easily can make us fixed. A strategy is I want to support side hustlers, solopreneurs, and other non traditional entrepreneurs who are underrepresented and who want to shine but are working with limited or different types of resources based on the resources I talk about and build from now: the focus, the agility, the time, or the energy. That's the strategy. Now that path might get me back on the TED stage. Shout out to y'all that are at TED right now. It might take me to another book. It might take me to doing 5 shows like this a week instead of the 1 or 2 that I do now. Might take me on a whole different path. There's so much stuff I'm doing behind the scenes now because that's the path I've allowed it to take me. If I was focused on the plan of me being in front of my big head being in front of y'all 24 hours a day on this TV show, then there's certain things that was able to do this year that's actually going to elevate y'all in the future and elevate myself in the future. But that's because I was focused on the strategy of supporting you however possible versus being focused on the plan. It has to be in a fixed way. That's the difference. Hop in the comments. Let me know what your difference is between a plan and a strategy. And are there particular insights that you learned when you had a plan and it didn't go your way? If you want to talk more about plans and strategies, my guy, literally just came in the mail. This is strategy, Seth Godin. Shout out to Seth. I love you. Love your work. You know the vibes. This is strategy is a really good follow up to This is Marketing. I literally just started reading it. I've been a Seth fan for 20 years. I have older relatives. Shout out to my mom and other folks who have been Seth fans before that. This guy, excuse me, has a legacy in my household. I am not exaggerating. He has a great book called This is Marketing. I've talked about on the show. Came out about 2 years ago. 2 years ago? 3 years ago now. There's a follow up to that. I'm just going to read the back because the back is fire. Today is your best chance to improve tomorrow. Number one, the future comes one day at a time. Number two, your audience can be chosen. Number three, don't play games you can't win. Number four, projects can be managed. Number five, we make decisions. Number six, starting over again, a difference can be made. Number seven, assets can be built. Number eight, networks can be created. Number nine, traction is the way forward. Number 10, oh, I love this one. Sunk costs can be ignored. And we'll repeat it. Sunk costs can be ignored. Number 11, information changes systems. Sure does. And number 12, you're not sitting in traffic, you are the traffic. Listen to me. You're not sitting in traffic, you are the traffic. I've worked with Seth in the past. I'm going to tell you exactly what he's saying. What he's saying is that it's you versus you. You saw the top of the program. We talked about this. It's you versus you, homie. It's only you. You're the only one in the arena. Shout out to Brene Brown. You're the only one in the arena. Not marina. Arena. You're not in the water. In the arena. You're the only one in the arena. That's it. Me showing up for y'all for this is the 396th episode. I haven't been going against the YouTube algorithm. I haven't been going against y'all as far as showing up. It's been against me. Am I going to show up today as my full self? That requires strategy. And that goes much deeper than a plan, you know? Right? Sunk costs. Let's say that one more time. Sunk costs can be ignored. I don't care how much time you put into it. If it ain't working, it ain't working. Not much more to it. And yep, thank you. And my personal favorite quote, you're not sitting in traffic, you are the traffic. So we can talk all day as far as people holding us back, as far as what the world being against us, and all those things. Like, I'm down for that conversation. And if you've seen my keynotes, they're all available. Almost all of them are available at bringyourworth.tv for free. Again, check it out. You can subscribe below. Like, I'll talk about that. Build from Now, again, my favorite book of the of the Bring Your Worth series, my personal favorite. I talk all about that. The introduction of Build from Now is about Hurricane Katrina, which blessings to the folks down there. I lived in New Orleans when the Hurricane Katrina hit, and so I talk about that and how that's a good parable to some of the stuff we deal with if we have if we're not traditional entrepreneurs. So I'm down for that conversation. I've done whole books about it. That's not enough to stop us, though, and that's not a valid excuse to not make an impact on your world. As I talked about in today's newsletter, you plant that seed today, and you might not be there to see the shade, but it's going to be a tree for somebody else. Shout out to Seth. I can't wait to dive more into this book. I'm sure there'll be some upcoming videos where I'll go deeper into the book, but literally, I literally just got the book. So I was like, no, this is going up. We're talking about strategy today too. This is the guy to talk about it. I can't wait to effuse about it. Maybe in next week's newsletter, I'll talk about it. Speaking of Seth Godin, my guy, on the dip and when you should quit, Seth Godin, I bring you where short. Earlier this year, and even now, I've been experimenting with doing a lot shorter content, like 2 minutes long, just a piece or a smidgen or a bite, whatever term you want to use. This is one of them. This video is a minute and 15 seconds. That's it, I think. Might be a minute 30. It's less than a minute and a half. I'm talking about my favorite book of Seth Godin called The Dip, which is about when to quit and when to keep going. And I give a good summary of it. At least I think it's a good summary, good summary of it. Be sure, you can actually check it out on our sponsor, Shortform. I think it's available on there, but just buy the book. The book is like 100 pages. The audiobook's 45 minutes. Just grab it. It's not going to be a waste of time. But I talk about it very briefly on there if you want to learn more about Seth's work and when you should let something go. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worst Show live on Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free. And again, what's the difference between a plan and strategy for you? Um, do you find yourself planning more and then falling back on strategy when the plans don't work? How are you organizing your 2025? And are you doing more planning or are you doing more macro strategy? I'd love to hear in the comments. Feel free to jump in. All right. So we know the difference between a plan and a strategy. Now, how do we strategize beyond today? Such a key part of it because we need to understand what direction we're going in to actually do what's good now. As I talked about in the previous segment, my favorite coaching question is let's go 5 years from now, 2029. It's 2029, October 2029. What are you doing in October of 2024 that actually will be sustainable for the next 60 months, the next 5 years, the next however many weeks that is, 240 weeks? If we start to break it down into those 1,500 days or whatever, once we start to break it down, the energy kind of shifts because then it can't be about making your mortgage or rent in the next month. It can't be trying to close this deal because you feel like it's going to be the last deal you're going to get as a business. It can't be about, make your hair turn gray, or pulling your hair out, whatever the equivalent is, because of a stressful thing happening right now. It can't be about that. Because we know darn well that 60 months from now, 5 years from now, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. Where were you October of 2019? I was entrepreneur in residence over at the Toledo Lucas County Library. Shout out to Jason and all the crew over there. I appreciate y'all. I miss y'all. I was entrepreneur in residence over there in Toledo, Ohio. And I was also working with a lot of nonprofit organizations, doing a lot more coaching. Did a lot of coaching that October. But I remember I was doing it at the time. This TV show was not on the radar. The business books that I'm known for now were not on the radar. It's been like 5 books since then. My kids are still really young. Yeah, my eldest had barely started school. Um, we had just moved to Las Vegas. We were just living in Ohio. The world was completely different at that time, in many ways, more ways than one. If you're around in October of 2019, the world is about to change dramatically. My point is that there's seeds that I planted at that period of time, including entrepreneurship and residence, that allowed me to do the stuff that I'm doing with you right now. If any of those steps were missing, if I didn't take a risk in becoming the first entrepreneur in residence for Toledo Lucas County Library, which is one of the biggest library systems in America. If I didn't take that risk, take time away from my own growing coaching business and my keynotes and other things to do that for the series of weeks that I did, I wouldn't be here right now. I wouldn't be speaking to you right now. Maybe I wouldn't even have a show right now. Maybe this whole thing wouldn't exist. But that's what I mean. You also have the other side of that, where there's certain habits, mostly habits, but certain habits, certain perspectives, certain levels of emotional intelligence, where we have a little voice in our head that says, because this is really what the killer thing is. When you ask, let's go to October of 2029, let's go 5 years from now, whatever habits or practices I have in my career, in my life, are they sustainable until then? It's not intended for you to feel shame or to feel like that you're not enough. That's not the intention. I think the deeper, real effect of it is that it makes you understand whether you believe you're going to be around or not. If I'm strategizing for October of 2029, that means I have complete confidence that this show is still going to be around as long as I'm still around 5 years from now. That changes the energy. That changes the temperature. Turn it up or turn it down, however you want to look at it. That changes the temperature. So if you have a hard time seeing 5 years from now and you're doing things on a daily, weekly, monthly, even annual basis that are not sustainable for the next 5 years, then you should ask yourself, do you actually believe that your business, your work is going to be around in 5 years? Because if you have faith, and I don't mean religious, if you have faith, confidence that your business, your work is going to be around 5 years from now, you're going to be making different decisions. You have to. There's certain moves I'm making behind the scenes right now that are helping to ensure the legacy of my family. Like when I'm gone, when I wrap it up. Luckily, I've been fortunate where since I was really young, I've always had awareness of death and that things are not permanent. And I'm thankful for that. So there's moves I'm making now that I know I'm not going to be live forever. So I'm not moving as such. Unfortunately, we have the opposite oftentimes with our business. We don't make long-term plans for our business because we don't really have faith it's going to be around. Why should I plan on having 100,000 subscribers when I have 18,000 now? Why should I do that? I can already see the 100,000 of y'all subscribed and coming through. Just like I saw the 18,000 of y'all coming through a couple years ago before y'all came. But without that vision, if you don't have that vision, that often reflects you not having complete confidence in the work that you're doing and how they show up. Mm, there you go. My plans are derived from my strategies, and so my decisions are not arbitrary. Arbitrary, I think, is the operative word there. And so my decisions are not arbitrary, but feeds to my strategies. That's right. So it becomes a back and forth. If you don't have that together, though, if you don't have confidence that you're going to be moving forward in a certain way, then you're not going to plan for the future. It reminds me of the sad stories I hear from some of the folks that are in the hood or in the rougher areas or people that have been through a lot of stuff. I was protected in a lot of ways growing up, but it doesn't mean that I didn't see some of this stuff. That doesn't mean my friends weren't going through some of this stuff. And sometimes we end up making these decisions, these reckless decisions. We'll leave it at that. Won't get in my soapbox. We start making reckless decisions because we don't think we're going to make it past the age of 30. Some of y'all that I coach are going through that right now. And then suddenly you're 35. And you're like, oh, well, if I knew I was going to make the 35, I would have made some other decisions. Not from a place of judgment, but literally that's human nature. If you don't think you're going to make it towards a certain point, if you think your business is not going to last till 2040, then you might sell your business. You might burn yourself out trying to do all nighters, burning the midnight oil because you're like, it's not going to be around in 2040 anyway. Personally, that's not the game I'm playing. I've been in my business long enough to be like, I'm glad I made that decision when I was in my 20s, when I was in my 30s, whatever, because I'm reaping the rewards of that now. That could be intellectual property, that could be ethics, that could be, I hate this term, but I can't think of a better one. That could be deciding to sell out or not. That could be treating your customers with respect. If you know you're going to be around, shout out to my folks that work over at Patagonia. I know a couple people over there, and I think their policy is they're going to go ahead and make decisions that'll impact the environment for the next 1,000 years. I believe it's 1,000. Think about that. I'm talking 2029. They're talking 3024. I can't even get it out of my mouth. That's if you're gonna really talk strategy, that's what you need to be on. You don't need to be 1,000 years, but literally as we speak, I'm making decisions behind the scenes to make sure that the businesses and the things that I create with my family in this generation stay with my family well after I'm, cremated somewhere. That changes your perspective. Those are the strategic things that help you get it together. So often we assume we're not going to make it. We assume we're not going to make it where we literally say that. We say, well, I better have a plan B, C, D, G, all the way to double Z, double Z, as my Canadian friends would say. We'll do that, which is fine. I mean, that's why I have multiple sources of income. When one goes down, other ones go up. Thank the universe for that. But that's not what I'm talking about. We will prep for failure like a mug. We'll go so hard on the failure, but we won't prep for success. If I didn't have something long term to say to y'all, then once I hit the 10,000 subscribers a couple years ago and hit the 18,000 last year, whenever it was, I'd be confused. I'd be that guy or that gal who turned 35, who made all their life decisions looking around them and think they wouldn't make it to 30. That doesn't mean that they're not going to make it. It just means there's some wasted time there because you assumed you weren't going to make it. There might have been some ethical decisions that you made because you assumed you wouldn't be around, but there you are. It's almost like the older rappers now who are a little bit older than me who are from those same streets and they're like, oh, I'm right. I'm in ARP magazine. What do I do now? You know, prepping for a success. Exactly. That's what strategy is to me. Strategy is saying, again, for me, the framework is 5 years. 5 years is what I'm doing now going to help or hurt my intention and what I'm trying to do? That's all. It's simple to me. It's not more complicated. Jump in the comments. Let me know what your definition is, because for mine, that's helped me, frankly, keep it together through those ups and downs because I have the macro view. My favorite strategy book, probably this decade, is Upstream by Dan Heath. I talk about it a few times a year. So good. Upstream basically says the best problems, the best problem solving happens when it doesn't become a problem at all. Upstream is like a river going down the stream. Downstream is when a problem is right here in your face. You got to deal with it right now. Upstream is when you see the source of something that might become a problem. And the entire book is helping you strategize how you see issues or challenges before they actually become a major issue. That's kind of like I was talking about in the previous segment, where if there's something you can plant right now, do it while it's easy. There's 3 or 4 things I'm doing right now, and I'm making the smallest little strides, just the tiniest little strides. I'm going to invest in this. I'm going to move in this way. I'm going to do this every morning, just tiniest little pieces. Because I know when I'm talking to y'all and I have a live show a year from now, the results are going to be there. But it's the tiniest little actions, and that's how you move forward. Great book that talks about that. Again, one of my favorite strategy books. Similar to the previous segment, one of my favorite little episodes of Bring Your Worth. Why plans don't work, do this instead. Plan versus strategy. If you missed the previous segment or you want to go deeper where we talked about a plan versus strategy, either rewind if you're watching the full episode or find the clip or just go to this one. Excuse me. And I talk about plan versus strategy and why we really should go after strategy instead of plan. Again, my name is Damon Brown, entrepreneurial coach to side hustlers, solopreneurs, otherwise non-traditional entrepreneurs. This is the Bring Your Work show. Come to you every Wednesday, most Wednesdays, live at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free. And my newest book, the complete Bring Your Worth collection, the 27th book, and about 6 of those books are in the Bring Your Worth collection. Be sure and check it out. You can also listen for free here at BringYourWorth.tv. Get it your favorite bookstore, preferably indie bookstore. You can get it directly from me, DamonBrown.net. I can sign it with my little hands, not so little, I guess. Or you can listen to it for free right now after we talk. After the show wraps up in 15 minutes, you can go and check out the audiobook, particularly if you're overseas. My heart goes out to you where you can't always get access to books, at least not easily. This is my gift to y'all. And so, how are y'all strategizing beyond today? Have there been certain strategic techniques that have worked for y'all? Hop into the comments. I'd love to hear your take on it. All right. And then one of my favorite questions: how do I make room for spontaneity in my career? One of the things that comes up a lot, and I imagine a lot of you are creatives. I coach a lot of creatives, almost exclusively. I coach creatives. And a lot of entrepreneurs are creatives at heart. They say, Damon, I'm better when I just wake up in the morning and I just see where the day takes me. My art should be spontaneous. If I structure things too much, excuse me, I'm not going to make it, and that'll suffocate my joy and my expression. And the thing is that discipline is actually a big part of our creative expression. One of the best things that you can do when it comes to creating a strategy or a structure, which I feel like they're kind of cousins, creating a strategy or a structure, one of the best things you can do is figure out where you actually need security and then to let go of the rest. Personally, I need alone time. That's part of my security. It helps keep my mind set. I'm a sensitive person, so if I'm around people too much, then my emotions start to get all wiggly. I'm sure some of y'all can relate to that. I like silence. I love music. You see, John Coltrane behind me. Shout out to him. Oop. Yeah, well, you can't really see it from there. He's up there. I'll put the camera up next higher next time. But what I was going to say was that I love the sound of things and all that, but I also like to have quiet. Most of today has been quiet. So that's part of my security. That's part of my groundedness. I like having a bunch of options. That's one of the reasons why I haven't worked a whole lot of jobs. Because a lot of jobs, at least traditional jobs, are like, no, you do this one thing. And that's not. That's like a short circuit. It's a little bit too hard for me. So even with the jobs that I have had, which again haven't been that many, but the jobs that I have had, they've had a variety of things that happen. That's part of my security. Part of my security is being physically close to the people that I care about. So, I mean, Cuddler, my second startup, was all about connecting people for hugs. One of the reasons why I was successful is because that was something I was very passionate about, along with my other two co-founders. So, me having physical connection to the people I care about, whether it's hug with a friend or a loved one or whatever, those things are important to me. I can build security around that to go and say these are the things that make me feel secure. I have around probably about between 40 and 50 different sources of income as far as passive income. Some of them are dimes, some of them are hundreds, some of them pay me really, really well. And it varies from month to month, week to week. You know how it is with creatives. But that helps me feel secure because I know that money in some form is always coming in, whether it's my 27 books or the show or the sponsorships, whatever, there's always pieces that are coming in. That's part of my security. Your security might be I need to have this paycheck of this particular amount or more every 2 weeks. I don't need that. That's not part of my security. It never has been. Not important to me. I'd rather go ahead and get an email and say, hey, you made $100 today because someone bought your book. Bet. Great. That adds to my security. So my strategy is based on that, which is why I've been very serious about multiplying the amount of passive income streams that I have. You see how that works? My security feeds into my strategy, and my strategy is based on my security. The rest of it doesn't matter to me. You have to get to know yourself well enough to know what makes you feel secure. Having like a huge amount of money in my bank account, it feels good and I like it, but that's not as much security for me as money constantly flowing my way from the work that I do. But some folks are another way and they build their strategy based on that. Your strategy, I think, is very personal. But if that doesn't matter to you, that's the forget the rest part. So, number one, figure out what you need for security and then build your strategy around that. Sometimes we build our strategy based on other people's security or what other people find important. But then it doesn't really fulfill us unless we happen to overlap with that level of security, whatever makes them feel good. I'd say the second part, which feeds into the first part, is build a community that will hold you accountable to what you said was going to be your strategy. I have a handful of folks, probably a dozen people, who hold me accountable every single day. Okay, you're going to be independent and okay, how is this building your brand? Okay, you want to go to this conference. It sounds like it's going to come out of pocket. Wasn't one of your goals this other financial goal over here? Why are you going to the conference? That conflict, that level of accountability, I have a hard time seeing a life that has mass or strong strategy without it. Because then you have other people who know your hopes, your dreams, your focus, your strategy, and are saying, okay, are you sticking to the script or not? Now, if you're updating your strategy and you're saying, oh, that doesn't matter to me anymore, then that's different. But if you're saying it matters to you, it really helps to have other people around to hold you accountable to it. So the thing is, you might have shiny object syndrome. I think it's shiny object syndrome. You can tell I don't have it. With shiny object syndrome, where it's like, oh, squirrel, and you see the next thing. You could have a really intense, driven, focus. I have to complete everything drive, which is more of my energy. That's what I was talking about with Seth Godin. Shout out to him. Sunk costs can be ignored. That's why number 10, I think it's number 10 on there. Yeah, number 10. That's why number 10 matters so much on his new book. This is strategy, because that one hits home for me. I'm like, oh, you're right. Some costs don't matter. You're right. We can move on. Whatever your thing is, your brain trust, your support group will help you with those circumstances and be like, yeah, you're not showing up in the way that's best for you, and be able to give you the love and support that you need for that. So those are the two things I would find that really help you build spontaneity within your career, even as you strategize. Figure out what you need for security and to make sure that you have a support group, even if it's just one other individual. You call them goal buddies. Shout out to Jeanette, but you can call them goal buddies or other folks where they will help you stay on track. And of course, you do the same ideally for them. And if you're able to do that, then it's easier to maintain your spontaneity while having some type of security and, of course, having a strategy that's based on that security. One of my favorite books that talks about this is The Creativity Leap by Dr. Natalie Nixon. Shout out to you. Hope you're doing well. I have her book around here, but I read it so often. I don't know where it was. I was right before the show. I was looking. That's why I was a couple minutes late. I was looking around for it. I was like, where is it? I couldn't find it, but it must be deep reading it, or maybe I was reading it while I was hanging out with my boys earlier this week. Anyway, I digress. Fantastic book. It is a little book. It's probably about 200 pages, maybe 150. Dr. Nixon talks about two basic principles. We have wonder and we have rigor. Wonder says, hey, if I had a magic wand, I would do it like this. And what if, or how about those kind of questions? Not worried about resources, time, energy, all the stuff I talk about and build from now. And of course, including the complete Bring Your Worth collection. None of that. It's just like wonder. I wonder if, da, 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 da. I think she literally says that in the book. Rigor says, okay, how can we make this practical? Let's bring it back down to earth. I want to have a TV show. Great. And I want a TV show and I want to connect with hundreds of thousands of people all around the world. Great. Wonder. That feels good. And I want to be able to support entrepreneurs, side hustles, solopreneurs all around the world. Bet. Rigor is okay, what platform is it going to be on? What are you going to talk about? Are you going to have guests on the show? Is it going to be solely promotional? Or will you actually be charging an audience for it? We have advertisers, we have sponsors. Shout out to short form. You see where I decided with that, et cetera, et cetera. You're building on that. That's the rigor. The fact is that we need both. Too much rigor means that you're not going to wonder about anything. Oh yeah, I want to go to let's say Italy. I want to go to Italy. Yeah, but I don't have any money. Okay, let's throw that away. Right? Like it's almost like we called it in journalism school. We called it an overactive editor. That's why people have so-called writer's block, which doesn't really exist, but it's a whole nother episode, maybe a future episode about that. But when people have writer's block, they can't really write, that's because they have an overactive editor. That's having too much rigor. You're throwing out stuff before it even gets a chance to get planted. You're not planting that proverbial seed we talked about earlier in the episode. If you have too much wonder, then you're just like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go live on Mars. Okay, well, I guess I'll pack a suitcase and it's pretty cold on the planet, so I guess I'll bring some thermal underwear. Like it's not it's not practical at all. People within my lifetime will probably live on Mars or at least hang out there, but it required a heck of a lot of rigor to actually figure it out. Which they're still working on the rigor compact part of the part of that compound discussion. If you can balance the wonder and the rigor, then you have a nice tension and you're able to be creative in a way that makes sense. And you're able to, I would argue, come up with a brilliant strategy for your business that will withstand the next 5 years. Speaking of strategy, one of my favorite episodes, Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and J. Cole, Creative Power Strategy. It was probably about 2 or 3 months ago. Might have been in the springtime. These three are considered the best rappers of the current generation, which is the generation below me. But they all have three very different ways to approaching their art of hip hop. I'm a business strategy guy, so I know their careers really well. I know their music really well. I remember when all three of them came out and have been fans in some form at some period of time of all of them. So breaking down, it's a 10-minute video breaking down the strategy of all three of them. And believe it or not, those strategies can be applied directly to your business. And it's smart to kind of choose what strategy you're going to have. I'd be interested for y'all to watch the video and then take a guess at what strategy I actually have right now. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear it. Of course, I have a strong opinion. I don't think it came across in the video, but yeah, that'll be a little Easter egg for y'all. I love for y'all to comment on the video when you watch the video and let me know what strategy you guys think I'm currently implementing in my business right now. Thank you so much for coming through. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV every Wednesday, live at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free. How are you creating spontaneity? I get the word out of my mouth in your career, and how are you balancing that with a long-term strategy? Because if you're running your own business, especially if you're a side hustler or a solopreneur, you got to have a long-term strategy. So how are you marrying the two? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to check you out on the replay. Until next time, much love. Remember, you can always bring your worth. You can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.